Chapter 4. The Hell Week. Brace yourself for tonight, came the voice from Tarn during their evening meal. Brace ourselves for what? Kem questioned back in confusion as Tarn popped upwards without any other context. Tarn glanced back to Kep. His name meant dark, but his face was best described as a Chinese sun. Tomorrow is the first day of the Hell Week. Tonight, our trainer will wake us up. I've seen the videos from the former candidates. They would fire guns and set off bombs to get the cadets out of the barracks, said Paya in an indifferent voice. He wasn't scared and was well prepared for this training. We must be aware, Tarn repeated. He could sense that something terrible was going to happen, but he didn't know what it was. However, he could feel it in his bones that some misfortunes would crash into one of them, leading to this precaution. The Hell Week was set to kick off in a few hours. They wouldn't be allowed to sleep and would undergo relentless training, pushing themselves beyond the limits of their health while remaining fully unconscious beneath their exhausted bodies was incredibly challenging. This phase aimed to filter out the 35 cadets and select only a few cream of the crop. 2400, 12 midnight. Tonight was covered up in a complete silence like never before. No birds singing, no skittering noise came from lizards. Only the eerie breeze whistled like a lullaby to soothe all the cadets into a peaceful slumber. They had committed to each other, not falling so deeply into sleep to prepare themselves for the gruesome morning ahead. But at the end of the day, they all succumbed to the fatigue compiled from the training. Let it take them over to pull them into the depths of darkness, discard their commitment to one another, and allow their souls to indulge in serenity. Welcome to the Hell Week. Get up now! The sound of firing guns and exploding bombs boomed was so loud that it caused the ground to quake. It was all well intertwined with their trainer's harsh, coarse shouts echoing throughout the room. Those deafening commotion woke all the young cadets up in fear and panic, but soon after they could regain their composure. The candidates rushed to grab their attire, running while putting it on concurrently. Tarn and Paya rushed off the barracks together. Their eyes searched for Singh and Yai. As soon as they found both of them coming out alongside Kem and Sharp, they all fell into a formation with their fellow warrior family. The weather is nice this morning. Before the training, you all need to get yourselves in the bath to wake those bodies up. Strip off those clothes. Move it! Everybody took off their clothes despite recently putting them on in earnest, leaving only one undergarment on their bodies. Then they resumed the formation and stood by for the incoming order. Tarn swallowed a gulp of saliva down the throat. The sea breeze fanning the skin spread the cold to the core. Tarn was fully awake without the help of bathing, according to his trainer's former order. Get in the bath! Move it! Hoo, yeah! The sound of the troops stomping resonated all over the training ground. Tens of candidates leaped into the bath, two or three persons at a time, until the last one. The water was utterly bone-chilling, but it made the virile soldiers quiver through their whole. Their mouths trembled, their teeth chattered, until they created the rattle-rattle sound, and Tarn wasn't the exception. On the other hand, Kaya's expression remained stoic, with only his lips turning pale white. The trainees had no idea how much longer they had to sit in this frigid bathtub. All they knew was that if any of them got up, they would be pushed back in, and some would even be forced underwater to feel the bitter cold that could freeze their brains. The nerve endings went numb as the body shivered uncontrollably, leading some to experience cold shock and need medical assistance. If they managed to recover in time, they were allowed to continue. But if they couldn't bear it any longer, ringing the bell to resign was their only way out. The water they were sinking themselves in was controlled to stay below 10 degrees Celsius. Every now and then their trainer would come by to measure it. If it started creeping over 10, a massive ice cube would promptly be added.
This is what awaits you in the future. And let me tell you, the actual situation out there is far more intense. Your mission is to endure it, harness your strength, and push through it with unyielding determination.
The piercing frigidness was seeping into every bone like being knifed by thousands of icy cold pins. Tarn tried to take a deep breath in and out as he placed his two hands on the bath edge. The lips, which now had turned purple, were pursed and relaxed in alternation. Both hands gripped the bath edge tightly as he tried to be mindful of his breathing. He focused on each inhalation and exhalation while chanting "Budho" to harmonize his rising and falling rhythm. Long Por's face filled his mind, trying to recall the first time he embarked on mindful cultivation and simply followed through with Long Por's discipline. The penetrating glacial cold persisted until the break of dawn, with every one of them fluttering in the bathtub. Nobody spoke anything. They just raised the voice "Hoo-ya" in response to the trainer's command, up to the point when the sunlight streamed in and squinted the soldiers' eyes. The sizable ice cube had completely dissolved, and no new one was added. Those who survived the mission were ordered to suit up and prepare for the next challenge.
Hoo yeah!
Every trainee was now donning a life vest and headgear, with a paddle in hand. They all carried the Zodiac to the minefield to demonstrate the waterborne bypass of the explosive area, followed by the portage challenge through the muddy terrain. The SEAL trainees made every endeavor to drag and pull their watercraft in unity. Despite the terrible exhaustion that muted everyone, they all managed to maneuver according to advice from Singh, who could embrace his sharp-witted consciousness better than everyone else at this stage. Darn. After all these brutalities, Singh was still capable of coming to his senses up until now, so his bragging was no cap. Time flew until the troops hit the sunset. Their training persisted nonetheless. After being able to drag the Zodiac through the mud field, all of the recruits had to paddle back to the boot camp and then carry their vessel on their shoulder again for physical training as soon as they arrived. They were squatting and running back and forth all night while staying focused on the trainer's command to discipline. No matter how overwhelming fatigue caused their bodies to barely move, they still gritted their teeth and soldiered on. Ding ding! Another trainee rang the bell. The warrior family team became smaller and smaller, and now they were holding a paddle with their mouth lying on the sand. Their eyes looked upwards to see twinkling stars spread across the ink black sky. Anyone who slipped into slumber would be punished, but after falling half asleep with their eyes open for just a few minutes, their trainer had a change of heart and ordered them to carry the log to warm up their bodies instead, preparing themselves for tomorrow morning when they would have to bear the weight of a log up a mountain that's steeper than ever before.
Darn, you good?
I'm good, Tarn responded to Paya, scuffing his feet forward slowly. Today's weather was scorching more than ever, or just we were inherently too wary. Tarn swallowed hard as he watched Chart's back. He flinched. Chart. Psh! Something was going to happen to him.
Left, right, left.
The marching rhythm was given to walk in unison. Chart! Mind your step! Shouted Tarn with a raspy voice.
You better tell yourself.
Chart retorted, thinking that Tarn was trying to mock him like he always did, so he didn't take it to heart. Tarn shook his head. Couldn't say he didn't want Chart anymore. What should he do? If he said it outright in a situation like this, who'd believe him? He had no idea either what was going to hurt Chart. All he knew was an unfortunate event was soon to happen. Gulp. The sign was vague, just like the time he had saved Paya. Tarn held onto the log tightly. The closer he got to the steep terrain, his heart beat faster. Should he tell the trainer? No. It was because everyone else had to pass this way as well. The rock pile! Yai, who was standing in the front, cautioned. Everybody acknowledged and continued to press forward, despite weighing the 100-kilogram log on their shoulders. They approached the rock pile cautiously. Tarn panted while observing Chart taking a few steps forward. Tarn followed, and Paya made progress right behind him. However, as they waited for Chart to navigate across the rock pile, Chart slipped and tumbled into a trench that emitted a resounding crack. The stumble caused the rest, burdened by the weight of the log, to stagger momentarily. Ugh! Chart! Tarn's eyes popped as he watched his friend about to hurl the log he was holding, but his trainer grabbed him by the shoulder. Instructor! Instructor! Singh, who was in front of Chart just now, cried for the trainer's help while the others ground their teeth tightly to bear the weight of the log that became heavier due to losing one of their participants from injury lying on the floor.
Go! Everybody else, keep marching on.
Their trainer shouted to the rest, but they all remained unmoved. Chart faced up to everyone while still holding his knee.
Go! Never mind me.
Tarn, who could see Chart lying and breathing heavily, clearer than anyone else, suddenly jolted when his gaze met his friend's bloodshot eyes. Chart was looking back at him with a wavering stare. Chart! Chart didn't want to leave the training, and he was crestfallen.
Go.
Chart groaned through his teeth, let out a heavy breath, and then sprawled, letting the medical unit carry him to the stretcher. Tarn clenched his jaw as he replaced Chart's position, and then he gave a signal for Singh to keep moving on. Yai swallowed his saliva in bitterness. The troop fellows on the front on the front feigned their insensitivity not to look back to Chart. Just that cracking sound was more than enough to indicate how severe the injury was. If Chart ever left the training out of his chicken heart, they all would still be confident to yell at him. But this was due to his unintended misfortune, so they couldn't do anything. Couldn't do anything to keep him carrying on. Their hearts sank as there was nothing they could do. The log burdened the cadets even heavier when they lost a team member, but they were close to the checkpoint, only a few hundred meters away. We're close! Shouted Yai to regain his soldier brothers' high spirits. All ground their teeth ferociously, scuffing their shaky feet forward. The destination was now in sight, causing them to keep biting down further. They finally got there. Everybody slowly put down the log and then fell in the line up with the others, whom the trainer ordered to stretch their body, watered them down, and said they could take a 5-minute break. Tarn and his friend sat under the shade of the tree. Haya, who was sitting by his side, raised the question.
Are you worried about Chart?
Hmm. Even though he knew there might have been some predicament that occurred to Chart, too bad he didn't know what it was. Otherwise, he might be able to save his friend. As Paya saw his homie's round, black eyes waver, he reached out to squeeze Tarn's shoulder softly. What had happened to Chart must have wrung Tarn's heart, and so did Paya. But for Tarn, it might be worse, as he knew it, so he gave that warning sign to Chart.
To foresee the other's catastrophe but couldn't do anything. You must have felt horrible.
Tarn turned around to look at Paya in the eye. He had to tolerate this bitterness since his childhood. Anytime he let them know, everyone thought he was screwed up in the head or might have gone insane. However, it didn't always end up in tragedy, such as in Paya's case. He could save Paya. Yes, it was, but I've done the best I could. Paya looked at Tarn with a hint of disbelief. Tarn held his stare to Paya's eyes, then raised his eyebrow mischievously and pushed the other on the shoulder. I'm fine, really. Thanks for your concern anyway. Paya unfolded a smile and stretched out his arm to wrap around his friend's neck.
You're my friend. How could I not be concerned about you?
Tarn sent a smile towards Paya. The two exchanged their gaze, smiling, with no other words given, and it caused Yai, who was watching the two nearby, to curl his lips upward too. Kem, who was sitting with legs spread out, raised the question.
What do you guys think about how is Chart now? At the hospital.
Long Tai responded in a detached tone. I knew that, but I mean, hey, he was so close to crossing the finish line, and he. To be honest, Cam felt dismayed for Chart. He was a talented one. He shouldn't have faced havoc like this.
Sometimes, life is at the mercy of luck. If it's luck decree couldn't win it, he couldn't.
Yai remained calm to his voice while thinking that Tarn's spidey sense was still dead accurate. 124 20 hours, 5 days and 5 nights, felt as if 5 years to them. The torment had now eaten the young troops up inside and out. They had been undergoing the training relentlessly, losing track of how many days or hours had already gone by. They just listened and followed the orders strictly. Even though there were periodic breaks, that couldn't even be called a break. All now looked no different from zombies. However, their bodies seemed somewhat familiar with this kind of torture. Until they reached the last day of their training, they took a ride from the training base to the Wat Mai Yu Sangat temple. As soon as everyone arrived at the destination, they all hazily woke up. Tarn accidentally leaned on Pious' shoulder while sleeping and was jolted awake by the nudge from Yai's hand. Tarn swept his gaze around in a daze and raised a hand to stroke his own face, then rose up to follow the others out of the car and fell in a lineup, waiting for their trainer's command.
Everybody, ground your weapons. Hoo, yeah!
The young soldiers faced down to disarm themselves and place their weapons on the floor. The final phase of the Hell Week was the mental fortitude test. Every trainee was tasked to bring their own code and place it in a coffin, read the attached message, memorize it, and rush out to tell it to their trainer. Those who couldn't deliver the message needed to do it all over again until they passed.
Darn, you jackass. You were raised in the temple, so what's your reason to fear for?
Yai roasted his question as they all were a little bit at ease after hearing this squeal from those former friends who were having their test. Tarn lifted his hand to rub against his arm. But I do. And because I was raised in a temple, I have more reasons to fear. Since he didn't stride around at night outside the monk's cell, he had always hit the bed right away after the sun went down from the sky. So what makes a difference to be raised in a temple? He still couldn't manage to feel at ease. That's a ghost, everyone.
Never knew you're a temple boy.
Cam interrupted. Now, the young troops, especially our trainer, sat in a circle and chatted. He even built up a more eerie atmosphere by telling us ghost stories. Tarn reversed to Cam. I'm a temple boy. Do you have any problem with that, Squinty?
Nope.
Cam shrugged his shoulder mischievously. Tarn twisted his mouth as he didn't get along well with the superstitious kind of things. Wangpor loved to tell him spooky stories that he often carried to his sleep, not to mention his temple boy Spear, who had always frightened him as a ghost. One of the reasons behind his fear of ghosts was to have an accurate extrasensory perception. He was scared to see more than this, and his life would reach the point of no return.
U7,
Who? Yeah! Tarn stepped forward.
prepare for action.
Longpor, say a little prayer for me.
Get in.
Well, bring it on. 1 hour later, Tarn wanted to dig himself a hole for an escape tunnel. He had done a whole lot of embarrassing things. Frenzied shrieks and hasty swears that his trainers and his friends couldn't stop joking about it. You asshole people, if you weren't me, you wouldn't understand. And that dead body just now, literally dead, almost scared the shit out of him. What if he did something displeasing and it woke up to ring him in the neck? Paya! Stop laughing now! He was still smoking hot even when cracking up, but Paya shouldn't laugh at him like this. He should have stood by me and comforted me, not laughing, you bastard. Paya tried not to laugh out loud, but still, the amusement he couldn't suppress shook his entire body.
Stop the sullen face already, man. Just
Don't come to me, instructor! Help! What? No man! I won't do it! Why do I have to do this? I'll do it! I'll do it! Mocked Kem. Tarn gave Kem a dead stare and chased after Kem to beat him. Only when their trainer blew the whistle, they both stopped and resumed their formation. Now, this mission was accomplished by every soldier in this phase. They received both compliments and mocking from their trainer. Then, it was time to return to the training base and count down to hurl the log. The Hell Week was going to end in a few minutes. Five, four, three, two, one. Splash! They all threw the heavy log on their shoulder into the sea before their yelling in triumph burst out in sync. The Hell Week was finally over. From 35 candidates to the last 23 men stood tall. Kaya was left stranded in the woods. There were only sky-high trees everywhere in sight. Where was it? His bare feet stepped onto the moist ground, and both eyebrows knitted together. He was so lost in the confusion that he couldn't stride any further. Why was he here?
there's a truth to be told.
This voice. Its voice? Kaya swooped around vigilantly, but couldn't see anyone or any creature at all.
Go, go take a look with your own eyes.
Flinch. Kaya's eyes opened wide, petrified, with his heart pounding. Two ice-cold hands grabbed his face and forced him to land his eyes on something before him. That thing started to distort and turned into a shore with a sizable bird lying dead on the rock pile. As he looked skyward, two creatures from different breeds fought each other until the death of one another. As the red bird appeared to be in a position of advantage and was going to spare its enemy, unexpectedly, Kaya was floating above the ground as if he was sucked up. Then, he shrieked the name of someone he didn't even know. It just spilled right out of his mouth automatically.
Baza! No!
Kaya sprang up, sitting on the bed. He drenched with sweat and heaved frenziedly while groping all over his face as if to feel it. The naga spit its venom on him on the dream. Tremendously startled, Tarn suddenly stopped chatting with Yai and Kem and swooped to Paya. The man was breathlessly panting on his own bed. Tarn approached him. Paya, are you okay? He had a nightmare again? About that naga? But why did Paya have to shout out his name? Paya heavily gasped for air. The agony from the naga venom still lingered, a blazing pain inside of him through every limb. Paya let out a sigh while nodding to Tarn as the answer. Yai, who noticed Paya's face had gone pale white, said with concern.
Want to go to the infirmary? Yeah, I'm with PI. Your face is freaking pale and drawn.
Kim agreed. Taya might have been worn out from the training that he went on well. Tarn stretched out his hand to tap on Paya's forehead. The tall figure jolted a little, but he still let Tarn to do the examination. Tarn drew the hand back. No fever.
I'm okay.
Just be frightened by the realistic nightmare a little too much. Yai crossed his arms.
Yeah, the nightmare?
Paya nodded.
A nightmare that Tarn was doing something to you or what? Make you howl that loud?
Paya knitted his brows.
What does Tarn have to do with it?
Yai was confused, so was Kem, but in a different interpretation. Yai looked at Tarn and switched his gaze to Paya.
So, you don't know that Vasa is Tarn's first name? Huh?
Paya looked at Tarn.
Your first name is Vasa?
Too much coincidence? No, he never had a nightmare like this before. His nightmare had never progressed from the drowning incident over and over again, with a voice ringing in his ear, until he had training here, met Tarn, and that Naga tried to talk to him even more. Tarn dipped his head. Yeah, my name is Vasa. The confusion clouded Paya's eyes as he looked at Tarn. The Naga that spit venom on him differed from the one he met in the Mekong River. He could sense it. And that Naga, it got him a headache. Both hands rubbed against both temples. Paya, if you don't feel well, do you want me to take you to the infirmary?
No, that's okay. Just let me rest here.
Paya was lost and confused. What is this freaking nightmare, actually? And why was that green Naga's name Vasa?
Hey, you haven't told me why you call out Tarn's name yet.
Kim was still curious, but Yai slapped him on the head.
You meddlesome prick. I wanna know.
Tarn shook his head to Yai and Kem disdainfully before turning back to support Paya, who lay down properly and arranged the blanket for the tall man.
Nothing. Just a duplicate name, I guess.
Said Paya to Kem in a low voice. No more talk. Sleep it off. Paya glanced at Tarn. He nodded while sending his friend a thin smile before gradually closing both eyelids. Tarn straightened up and looked at Paya, trying to make sense. Yai, who watched Tarn look at Paya with concern, dragged Kem out of the door. Let the two take care of each other. They shouldn't be the third wheel in their way. Tarn could sense that Paya's nightmare grew more suspicious each day. End of chapter 4.